Hello, we're doing something different today, no 4 stars for a change. I was asked by Koku to try difficulty 15, ending 2 and 3, with only welfare operators. Now the rules on that are a bit weird for those of you not familiar with Koku's YouTube channel. Basically it's only 3 operators you get from events, no credit shop operators or the main story ones like Civilized Eterna. Don't ask me why it's like that, it doesn't make sense to me either. Anyhow, Koku told me that he normally starts with Puzzle, Insider and Tinman, because Tinman costs 1 hope. But that requires actually getting some extra hope from the starting options. I kinda forgot to do that, so I'm just playing with Tinman and Insider. Luckily, I got a bunch of money at the start and found Puzzle fairly quickly. I forgot to record the first 2 nodes of the map because I'm stupid, so we only have the last 2. The first 2 was fighting the Tawons and the stage with a bunch of slugs, where I just pointed the operators and they died. Now, for some reason I thought that Puzzle has increased range when they use the rest 2. They do not, and they have no way to charge it here, so I'm not sure what I was expecting. All that's left is to hope that Tinman can break the crystal on his own, while Insider basically solves the entire stage. In fact, they cannot break the crystal on their own. Most unfortunate. I should have used his Q to kill the trumpet here, but I was hoping to buy time for the crystal. That did not go well. Boop. Boop. Music. Bye bye trumpet. We lost a couple of lives in stupid ways, but no big deal. We have 46 ingots before a shop. I picked up Valor because she has elemental damage, so she can kill the crystals pretty easily. And from the shop, we have a Defender, a promoted Vanguard, and a knife that reduces crystals by 50%. Now I don't know what any welfare operator does, so I'm just going from what Koku told me. Apparently Underflow is a good operator, so we're picking her. We'll see how she does later on. And reroll, cause we're truly loaded. Oh, what's that I see? The Roundstone Outer. A chance to permanently increase attack after every fight. And we got it on the first floor while doing ending 3. Surely when we're going through 6 floors we're going to be able to stack it, right? Right? Super solid squad for the second floor, a Defender, Valor to kill the crystals, Puzzle for both damage and vanguards, and Insider and Tinman. We have both range damage, healing, melee damage. Pretty well rounded squad. We got the ending 2 relics, but we're not gonna use them just yet. The debuff we have is the Sarkaz one, 50% extra attack for Sarkaz enemies. This isn't that bad of a debuff, because very few enemies have long enough range to bother you on later stages, but early on it can get irritating. If I had an extra one, I could start with temporary patch-up, and then go through 6 stages. But because of my swappy start, I ended with no puns on the second floor. So we just have to take the Tetris stage. The idea is to do 1 more stage and then go down, that way we can get at least 5 stages on the second floor. Obviously want to grind as many emergencies as possible. The Tetris is basically a free win, just break the crystal with Puzzle, point all the operators up, and AFK. Underflow has decent damage, a ranged attack and can hit invisible units, but she's surprisingly wimpy for a Defender. She's basically a guard, as far as I'm concerned. And we got a pretty great item, minus 20% health for all enemies. That's effectively a 25% damage increase, in terms of how many hits it will take to kill them on your end. I'm not sure what Vanguard I wanted. Ultimately I decided to go with Wind Main, because the push can be used to cheese a bunch of enemies. I will definitely remember to do that later in the run, yep. Tinman was solo carrying the weight until now. This stage is hard, so I made sure to go into green weight. This is the stage where the Sarkaz snipers and the arts guards. And we need to get the crystal to go down. Luckily Wild Main will make it helpful, even though they have 50% extra attack. and will murder me in a couple of hits. We have a lot of tools to kill them at a distance. Now I think deploying puzzle at the back was a mistake when I look back on it. I think there's no need for her to be there because all of the enemies that go straight to the blue box come from the bottom red box. She could have been used to just rush down the crystal instead, I think, from a relatively safe tile. But instead I had her in the back, stout the archer a bit with Thunderflow, and used her and Insider to clean up two of the Sarkaz art dudes. You can see how much damage they do. They basically two-shot my E2 Vanguard. Ideally I wanted to pull one more of them, but Thunderflow started getting wrecked by the archers, which means Insider would die too. However, we have wild main skill, so I decided, fuck it, I'll go for it. I used Tinman to pull the one that Valor can't pull from a safe tile later. Now Insider gets deleted, and wild main can show off. This is why I brought her. Now I don't have a window to damage the crystals because the archers can kill puzzle without the extra damage, which is why I should have deployed her there earlier. She would have generated more TP, and then wild main could have been used from the start. You can see I don't use agents much, so I didn't think about a more offensive position. Now I'm just waiting around for Wildman's skill to charge up. And you can see just how much damage the archer dudes do now. One hit did almost her entire health, like 900 damage. Granted she doesn't have much, but she was definitely a great choice for this stage. Underflow is excellent at this too, with the slow during S2. Anything that can keep them at a distance so you can kill them is really helpful. And finally I was planning to use Insider to kill the crystal. Because it has 50% reduced defense and he has an attack buff, he can melt it. But I kinda forgot something. When you use his skill he starts targeting ranged enemies, like the Sarkaz snipers. So I killed the last enemies instead of going for the crystal. I tried to do everything I can to get it. So I threw Puzzle and Tinman on it, I retreated Underflow, and I let Wildbane die. And that only got the crystal to 50% health. That means I miss on 2 fights I could have gotten by going down. And the only item we got are extra recruits, which we missed on because we don't have extra fights. At least we can E2 Tinman. I couldn't have gotten another operator with 2 hope. And then we got an encounter. An encounter that doesn't give any immediate value. We still have 11 items going into the 3rd floor, thanks to all the money we had in the shop. So we're not quite dead. But we could have had a much stronger run if I didn't mess up. I spent all of the runes, except the ending 2 ones. I don't want to craft it this early, because the extra DP cost is annoying, so I'll just hold on to them until later. And I've always wanted to stack a bunch of Sprout runes, so now's my chance, since I have Tinman. We just got rid of the Sarkaz buff and got it again. You can see there's a shop at the bottom right, so we want to end up at the bottom, a shop and a boss key. Really good floral RG. I decided to do the bloodline on the top, because it has 2 crystals. Even if I have to leak a bunch of enemies, if I get both crystals it guarantees that I can get the boss key later, and take all the extra stages. Finally I have a good tile for Puzzle to attack the crystal early, and now I get to use her properly. Insider and Puzzle melt the crystal, even without a caster. Then Tinman is down there for healing immediately. His S2 has a pretty massive AoE, and even when he's aiming at the crystal he can still heal Valor just fine. And well, main gets to show off by chopping spiders. Even though she's E1, she is surprisingly useful. Sadly there's no hoe between them, that would have been cool. But hoe or no hoe, she can keep pushing them back, they explode away from her. Pretty good cleanup. I deploy underflow so I can slow with her, since Puzzle is about to get eaten. Looking back, that was probably a mistake. I could have probably just put her on the tile where I have Puzzle on, and then I tried to DPS the enemies coming in with Puzzle, but she didn't really charge in time. She only has one tile to work with after all, so it was less than ideal. By the time her skill charge, she got eaten again. All that's left are a few trash mobs and the final wave of these guys. I keep trying to find places to deploy her more aggressively, but with the 50% attack buff she kind of dies really fast to basic enemies. In IS-5 you have to be really cognizant of what debuff you have. Some of them can completely change how you have to play the stage, so if you lose track of it you can die in a really stupid way. Like, because of that debuff, look, even a defender just takes 3000 damage in one hit. I could have definitely done this with 0 leaks, but it got pretty messy. You can definitely tell that I don't use the operators often. That being said, completely acceptable for the 2 crystals. We only got 4 shields. I'd prefer an item that actually gives me power. Shields just help me if I fuck up. An item stop prevents the fuck up by giving me more power. Not sure what I want to pick here. I thought I could get Guadia, but I forgot 6 stars or 7 hope. So now I'm stuck taking a specialist. I was wandering between Benna and Enforcer, and ultimately went with Benna, because a Doorkeeper should be useful on a few stages. Now, if anyone knows what this stage is, you should know it's success, and I just rerolled it again. Even though I want to get a bunch of emergencies, I decided I didn't have the squad to actually play the careless magic. It's a bunch of endless luck spam that will roll you over. I'm gonna skip the simulated skirmish because I'm playing an emergency simulated skirmish right after. I got some reduced DP for it. So basically this stage has 2 threats. The cannon is not one of them. You have the cards with the necrosis debuff that can eat your blocker, and the 2 artilleries. Ideally, if you have the melee operators for it, or 1 melee operator in one range, you hold a bit of DP and deploy a couple of operators to damage both the artilleries. Once you wipe them both out, all that are left are the cars, but there's no immediate threat. If you can kill the slugs quickly or have a ranged medic, the necrosis buff from the cars isn't a big deal. The reason the cannon doesn't matter is because there's only 2 cannon shots on this map. The first one right at the start, and then the second one. So you effectively only have to displace 1 cannon shot. And the third one happens when the stage is already over. You can delay it even more if you kill the chargers, but it's not even that important. You can see, only 2 cannon shots. So this is a stage where you really don't want to fear the cannon. We got the King's Crown, 50% attack as soon as we lose 2 lives, which, thanks to the shop in front of us, will happen before we actually get into a fight. Sadly, we are a bit poor. If I was thinking, I should have probably taken the botted Sky first, because it's a free win. But it's only a few ingots, no big deal. I consider taking the key because I'm really low on hope. And the Vanguard book because, frankly, it's a good item. And I was looking if I could sell off something for more ingots. This is why I should have taken the fight first. You can see I'm missing out a bit. No huge was though. The Hand of Undulation gives SP to drone casters and chain casters. But I didn't have either, so I skipped it, even though it's an overpowered item. I was told by Koku that Eratu is really good, so I picked her. Now, I am an EM player, so I don't read anything and have no idea what Eratu does. We'll see if she's good or not later on. And then took a guard ticket to E2 Highmore. Nothing too interesting in the shop, unfortunately. We went down for the botted sky fight. We're just gonna cycle through this fight really quickly because it's boring. 90% of the enemies just do 300 damage and then kill themselves. And the rest are random trash mobs. You have one big animal that just circles around. It's not even that hard to tank in the first place. Even if you can't shoot it around for some reason. Basically a defender that doesn't get one shot and a medic can keep it in place. We get some offensive SP recovery. Not sure I actually have an operator that has offensive or defensive recovery, but what can you do? Well, I guess Highmore does. I need one more stone, and I managed to roll a stage that actually has a stone on it. I'd have to be pretty unlucky not to, considering the only one that doesn't have a stone is Careless Magic. And then all that's left is the cleanup. Point the snipers to the lancers and GG. This stage is really easy, so I'm just skipping through it. I've never really thought too much about it. I throw all the operators I have at the lancers, either on the rocks or on the left if I have enough DPS, and then it cleans itself. Not sure what I wanted for a welfare caster, so I went with Astagen, the chain caster. Never used her before, so we'll see how she does. And now we took our first boss key on the 3rd floor. The debuff we got freezes our operators when they're on the ground, and I saw something pretty surprising, a boss key with a face-off node. I haven't seen it before, and I decided I have no reason to reroll it. It's just an Avenger fight, so we won, obviously. And got 20% arts damage. Now I didn't reroll the wish node. The reason for this is that I only have one Puan. If this was some floor for emergency that I couldn't beat, like the Slug one, I would need to reroll it. But if I reroll the wish node and I got the floor for the emergency that I couldn't beat, I'd have to reroll it again. This is a good run, so no reason to screw myself, just for one recruit ticket. I could have rerolled away the floor for emergency, but this is one I can beat, I was fairly confident. Highmore can take care of the enemies, and thanks to the boss key debuff she has 1200 defense. Insider is here just to kill the bats, and then I decided to try out what Astagen can do. Obviously the Necrosis wreck these slugs, cause they have 0 health. Insider cleans up all the bats, and I completely ignore the trees, we'll leave them for the end. Normally I bother to snipe them, but that's mostly to make the stage go faster. Apparently Astagen is a chain caster who can fire 2 targets at once with some bonus damage. Against some massive enemies that's pretty cool. Speaking of massive enemies, I think she wrecked them pretty quickly considering she's still E1. Anytime we do a combo in the crafting bench, we gain 1 ingot, and I E2'd Astagen after this fight to try out how much damage I can get out of her. She felt pretty fun to use. Once again, I am not going to craft the ending 2 item. You can do that on the 5th floor. I keep the sprouts once more, let's keep stacking them. We have 4, so 8 on the next floor. And we just turn the runes into shields. The only one I keep is the attack speed rune, because it's useful if you run into a tough fight. I'm used to using Beanstalk, so I'm really surprised how fragile Puzzle feels by comparison. But she does generate a lot of DP. On damage we're fine, but basically every operator I have dies in 2 hits to the enemies. I guess I haven't drafted anything that's actually good defensively. Usually I at least have Gummy for that, if nothing else. Figured since the boss AFKs, we can have Puzzle bully them a bit, and gave that a try. Surprisingly effective lead, and then it gets buffed by Tinman, and Vower adds her necrosis, and so much for the boss. The rest of the stage is just throwing random walkers, so the archers don't kill Astigen. This is definitely the easiest floor 3 fight. When I was doing no item runs, why did I use past tense? I'm still doing no item runs. This is the one I could most consistently beat without any leaks. And we got the sniper scope. You might think you need long range operators to benefit, but you really don't. Anything with 3 tile range is enough. So Astigen, a normal anti-air sniper. Instead of it doing Ben, I grabbed Guadia, because we might need a poor for the ending 2 fight. And then what do I see here? Another boss key. The ending 3 note in the Lost and Found, a shop right after. What an amazing floor. I was just shocked how much value I was getting. Considered for a moment actually going for the downtime too, because its own value is insane, as will be demonstrated later in the run. But I settled for the obvious better path with the boss key. I rerode into the Sarkaz stage, and I wasn't sure how to do the stage with the 4 Sarkaz Quappers, cause they would basically one-shot any operator I had. I didn't think of it, but I could have used Wild Main to keep interrupting their attack while I shot them with something else. That being said, I'm not sure it would have been worth doing, because I also had to be able to kill the suicidal things that run in. Since I didn't bring Wild Main, and I only realized it when Coco told me later that she can push them back, I tried it once with Eratu and Underflow to see if we have any chance of killing them. Nope, no way. That was a 4000 health defender. Okay, so the moment that happened I came to the conclusion that I am going to skip past... I'm just going to leak them all. If you're leaking the Sarkaz, you don't have to bother killing the suicidals. You can just ignore them and redeploy your operators afterwards. If you kill the Sarkaz casters quickly enough, you can also do that. Because if you kill them, they spawn extra tanky slugs and it becomes a pain in the ass. I'm also not sure I can play the Crimson Corridor with this SWAT, but I am willing to give Astigen a chance if it comes to it. Anyhow, boss key time. We got the extra crystals, and all the enemies and operators have reduced health, which is excellent for me, honestly. If you have safe houses fully upgraded, they make extra paths when you roll into them. We got the safe house, and got the squad limit, because it was a bit small beforehand. It's the Ghost City stage, which we already beat on floor 3, but now enemies have less health and Astigen is E2. Obviously we win easily. She gets the crystal. You can notice there's 41 enemies this time. That's because we have an extra at the end. And now that Astigen is E2, she gets to show off. Honestly, I was surprised by how much damage she deals. Felt really good. And we got the crowd in. It then proceeded to die horribly. The Iwan Guadia couldn't pull it, but it did not help. And finally these guys got properly wiped by the E2 Chaincaster. Simple clear, and we got a crystal out of it too. 2 deployment limit is wonderful, really helps on later stages. And the healing is an item, I guess. Not sure what I was supposed to grab for a guard, so I just went for Tachanka. Same idea as last time. I don't want to get stuck in some very nasty emergency, so I didn't reroll the wish. And the final stage was Epochal Gaps, meaning we're going to come out of the boss queue with 1,000,000 crystals. The item we got is one of the best defensive items, by the way, the medicine sticks. Every operator has 2 shields, so every operator takes at least 3 hits to die. Against some enemies, it basically triples the health of my operators. I leaked to enemies because I somehow always forget that agents only have 1 block. Not sure why. I know they have 1 block, I've used agents before, but I always forget it. The rest of the stage is just making sure that my ranged operators don't get necrosis, and then cleaning up the rest of the crystals. I ended up missing the one at the bottom, but they have enough crystals, so no biggie. If the skill is activated, getting necrosis isn't that big of a deal. And everything else gets cleaned up pretty easily. Every time we win a fight we gain more carry capacity. Considering I want to abuse the sprouts with the replication gimmick, that will be useful. We finally get an E to Guadia, so she can actually pull stuff now. And the Lost and Found. Shockingly, Guadia has the same carry capacity as my other operators. I thought 6 stars were supposed to be higher. You learn something new every day. Maybe it's because they're welfares. We got the ending 3 items, but first we're doing the shop. Now I thought Valor would do a bunch of damage if I got plus 100% elemental damage. Apparently it's kinda mid, cause the enemy health scale was way too high. I was really not impressed by it. Other operators ended up doing way more damage. On the other hand, Malediction, plus 70% arts damage for my casters. Astigin is going to murder everything. 20% extra damage for Eratu and Insider. And now I also want to get the hairpin item, the golden thing. Anytime you use a rune or thought, if you prefer, it gives you the objective shield. Other than giving you shields, it indirectly increases your carry capacity, because you don't need to bother carrying those runes to the crafting bench. I lucked out and never had to fight the Crimson Corridor. Though I believe this squad can definitely beat it. I'd rather not try that stage if I can help it. Now this is the worst debuff you can get in the Bosky. It just gives you command XP, which is completely useless, so there's no benefit, and in return the enemies spawn the new slugs when they die. So you just get a useless bonus and a really powerful debuff. Because the enemies that can spawn the slugs are random, you can get it on some random trash mob early on that's not supposed to have it, and that can screw you over. As for the stage itself, if you have some AoE pointed at the center and some trash clear for the melee enemies, you just win. That's the entire stage. Honestly, think this is one of the easiest stages. As long as you can deploy some stuff, you're set. And then we get the prophecy item and get to burn away our runes and turn them into objective shields. So no value lost from having to throw them all away. Finally we get to the Patriot fight. Basically had Insider kill half the trash mobs on the map. It's a really long fight, but I think it's fairly easy. Unedited it took about 5 minutes, so we're just gonna skip through it a bit. Apparently Tinman starts doing crazy damage, because he completely wrecked Frostnova along with Benna. It's not like he gets the bonus arts damage. And then Astigen murdered her even though she's on Chaincaster. Through all this, Banner just stood there and ate Patriot as well. Poor Valor couldn't even attack anything. Sadly for Patriot, he AFKs for half the stage, like he does on most of his stages. So he just slowly walks forward and then dies to whatever ranged operator you have. Just like usual. When I think about it, that's not too different from the ending 3 stage. The rest of the stage after Patrick is just a few cows and a couple Circus casters. They get pretty quickly cleaned up by Astagen, and now we have the ending 3 item. All that's left is to finish the 4th and 5th floor. At this point I started throwing out plants because I had so many. I'd rather throw them out than Sprout. Again it's the surveillance stage, but this time without random slug spawning, so obviously we win easily. And we find the king's new ones, 50 ASPD, and finally pick up a Rio Medic. I thought about rerolling these into emergencies, but since I already have 2 king's relics, I'd rather just keep my options open and pick between items, so I have a higher chance to get the 3rd king relic. Sadly I didn't find it here. And the 4th floor is done. Once again, I'm not using the Sprout just yet. Now allied melee units have 35% attack, why not? And 20% extra health. Oh, I got the other one apparently. I gain more block when I'm next to the blue box. The hell did I pick that for? The last 2 items are 35% reduced damage from Circus, which is wonderful for the ending 2 boss and the ending 2 item. And once again, we have a shop, a downtime and a boss key, all on the same path. And we walk right into the Rogue Mercenary emergency. It's not terribly hard, but it is a DPS check. If you need some general advice for it, you should just completely ignore Mudrock. She just walks around and then dies. There's only 2 red boxes you care about, the ones on the left, which have the casters, and the ones at the bottom, which have the chargers. Have something spawn kill the chargers to interrupt the cannon, and the rest of your operators can shoot anything that comes out of the left. The box in the middle, on the top middle, it's just bait, nothing that actually fights you comes out of it. And the final thing that's important to know, the civilians can survive a cannon shot, at least at difficulty 15, I'm not sure if their health scales. Point is, it's not a big deal if they eat a cannon shot. I ended up leaking 2 enemies because of the ending 2 item, I ran into some DP issues, and luckily I got a starting DP item to sort that out. And in the shop I found the Vanguard book, which gives you 1 DP per every 3 seconds and another Sprout. Sadly I'm a bit broke and Koku is also broke, so I couldn't empty his bank to get a bunch of items. Tragic. So many items in the shop left untouched. I would drop it, but there's another shop on the 6th floor. Next it's the Academy stage. At this point we have enough damage to stomp through fairly easily. Insider keeps eating all of the crystals for me. Always convenient when you can do that with a physical damage sniper, because they're cheaper than casters. I had to block 1 caster, because the crystal just barely didn't die in time. But after that Insider kills everything in these lanes. Tinman and Puzzle takes care of the wizard. And that's it for this stage. There was a duck too. Luckily we have an E2 Kera, so it turned into a brick and never recovered. Freeze is pretty good against the duck. We got items that would have been more useful earlier, but I won't complain about carry capacity. Okay, so if you get this stage, pay 5 ingots, increase the bid again, and then even if you have the money, refuse to pay. If you pay, you get 1 item. If you refuse, you get an emergency stage that has both a duck and a bear on it. And it is an emergency stage, so the stage itself also gives you an item. The stage itself is super easy. You have a ton of time to deploy before the duck or the bear comes. So I just set up Insider and Kera and we'll freeze it again. The duck walks around there a few times before going to the blue box. Super easy to kill. And then the bear comes out from the top box while you have some random enemies spawning. There are a few ranged enemies, so make sure you have your melee operators after your ranged operators. Usual stuff. The bear spawns in, gets bullied horribly. And then I forget to deploy woman in time before Guadia dies. But that's fine. If you're wondering why the bear appeared out of nowhere, it got kidnapped by the car that was passing, and then it was dropped out. If you let the car keep going and don't kill it, it will just drop the bear in the hole, and that counts as a kill for you. I got a bunch of extra hope, which is actually useful for a change, because I've been command level 10 forever, and I had no hope for operators. Finally I can E2 woman. Now we have a strong medic. And next is the Area Assault stage, with a squad that has a million snipers and casters. Yeah, somehow I don't think we're gonna struggle much. I had Insider start killing the drones. By the way, does anyone else feel like the summoned drones from these things do weirdly low damage? I know their damage isn't exactly high in the chapter... What chapter were these from? Chapter 11? Or chapter 12? Chapter 12, I think. Anyhow, I know their damage wasn't that high in chapter 12 anyway, but at least they could kill my operators. You'd expect they'd get better at killing my operators at difficulty 15, but they feel like they get outscaled by items. The rest of the stage is just point Astagen and Guadia tow the drones, and they get cleaned up. There's also an extra spawn at the bottom, but it's only the small drones. And there's a duck finally. Why are there so many ducks this run? We got even more hope. We probably don't need it. I'd rather have gotten some real items, but hey, E2 Eratu. I mostly ended up using her S1. The scaling on the S2 just seemed kind of bad if you didn't have another sleep source. At least when compared to Totor. I guess it's not that terrible in a vacuum. It's still 125% extra damage. E2 Kiera, yay. And we're just picking up everything, because we can melt the runes away. Finally we got another academy fight. I'm not gonna show it because it was exactly the same thing as last time. And then finally I picked up Absinthe for another caster. The final stage is the Passage Book 8. This is the one with the Maria Nero Knights. You just need to spread out your damage between them and leave some operator to kill the trash mobs in the center. A very straightforward stage. They are very CCable, stun, sleep, freeze, etc. So even if you don't perfectly sync their kills, it really doesn't matter. You can throw the rest of your squad at them afterwards. If you think you're going to fuck it up, always kill the sniper first. The melee one is easier to manage. I should have probably been running Geratu S2, because she's just lowering Insider's damage when she sleeps the archer. Doesn't end up being a big problem though. we do remember we have the sniper scope, so Eratu ends up doing a lot of damage to enemies at a distance. The rest of the stage is just a few trash mobs that get very easily cleaned up. And finally the face of note. For some reason I decided to reroll it, no idea why. I guess I was hoping for an encounter, so I can get the King's Relics or the fight with the 4 animals. But I ended up losing value on that, so I didn't even bother to go down. I got the Hand of Undulation again, so infinite SP for my casters. All that's left is the ending 2 fight. I still have a bunch of sprouts for meme purposes. If I was tryharding, I would probably turn them into items, because this is actually the hardest fight. The vanguards are positioned to cover Insider, and then I throw every other body to stall the boss. They have 2 shields, so they take a while to die. Useful trickery. Here I took Eratu ending 2, because I assume the boss is immune to sleep. And even if I could sleep him, why would I? Using Guadia was probably not a great idea, considering I'm going to need her to pull the boss in a few seconds. But I am pretty greedy. Tinman cleans up all the shadows behind, and we keep killing the boss exceedingly slowly. I should have probably committed more physical damage to the fight and to the boss itself, but we managed to get him down. So we point all of the casters at the boss, and I kinda had a fuck up here. I have woman on the top side, so there's no good tile left for Absinthe. The boss can run away from her if I pull enough. Once you pull him away, he loses a lot of his damage reduction and becomes a lot squishier. Unfortunately, I activated Absinthe's skill too early, so she couldn't get the damage from it. It's basically a 300% damage buff, but the target has to be below 50% health. And then she ended up exploding from the sister before she did anything. How tragic. Everything else gets pointed at the boss, and we try to nuke it as quickly as possible. The only reason we survive so many explosions is because of the medicine sticks. But once we run out, everything explodes, except the operators that had shield stacks. I think the big mistake was committing Astagin on the boss instead of keeping her to clear the trash, so we lose about 20 lives. Oh, we're going to have to do the difficult ending 3 without those 20 lives. How terrible. How will we cope with this? Anyhow, we got the horn, and my disappointment that Koku doesn't have Uxiao Haze model is enormous, so I get Lessing. No idea what Lessing does, I didn't bother to read, I just used this too. And here we are. Over 30 Shrivu and Sprouts. I have to start throwing them away, because I can't even go one step with nothing else in my inventory. Finally we got to the final shop. So we buy out everything, E2 Lessing, and then reroll the shop. Or that's what I wanted to do. Sadly all of the items kind of sucked anyway. But what else am I gonna do with my money? It's not like I have an ingot relic. And then I got more items that suck. 50% extra ingots for the 2 fights left in the game. Wonderful. I was kind of surprised by what happened here. I guess this is a limitation when you attack quickly. The bullet system really works against you, and you end up doing a lot less damage than you'd expect compared to a normal sniper over there. So I guess operators with bullets other than the cockroach aren't that great in IS-5 because of that. It's pretty limiting. Maybe they should make some support item for them. Like you get extra damage per bullet stored or fired or something. Maybe we have an item like that, and I've just forgotten it. No, I don't think so. Anyhow, this was a glaring example of why I should have E2'd Cruz instead of Insider. I think she's probably better past the early stages, by quite a large margin. The big advantage he has is that he annihilates crystals once you have a few items, because of all the extra attack. But you can just use Vower for that, so I don't think that's all that great. Ended up with the messiest trade shop ever. Basically just started throwing random bodies, and luckily my casters are so buff that it kind of worked, while Guadia basically ended up sewing the top lane. We have Insider and Guadia is still my best anti-air. Tragic. No, that's not true, I'm exaggerating. Still though, I'm surprised how well Guadia did against the chest. It's not like she has any bonuses against them. You know, I just realized that bothering to kill this thing was completely pointless. I could have just leaked all of the Suiciders, because they don't really line up with almost any other enemies, other than a couple of cars on top, and then deployed to kill all the other stuff. Thoughts for some low power drone that can just kill everything, I guess. And once again, I bought everything from the shop, all the items there sucked, and I threw everything away other than the sprouts. And then from the encounter, we got one of the best encounters in the game. How many items do you think this encounter gives? 1, 2, 3, 4? All of those are wrong. You can get 5 items from this encounter. If you kill every enemy and have the Talons of Hatred, you get 5 items. Best encounter in the game. On top of that, the encounter itself is fairly trivial. We picked up a stun bomb from the shop, which gave us an easy kill on the duck, though it would have been wrecked anyway by our caster. The bear is tragically freeze immune, but not sleep, and it gets wiped. Normally I block the dinosaurs because it makes positioning easier. In this case I blocked the snipers because I don't want to deal with their invisible asses. And then I kind of struggled to clear basic enemies and had a realization. Wait a minute, I have a chain caster. Why are they not deployed? After that I stopped struggling to kill basic enemies, because this chain caster does 6000 damage per hit. And everything got melted. Ah, life is good. There are a few chests that come on the top, but they don't really line up with anything. So you can kill them at your leisure, after everything else goes away. Another example of the bullet skills kind of sucking when you have attack speed. $5,000 true damage per leak, 70% attack after dodge, hit on hand, extra damage if moved, and a promotion for Cruz. Best encounter in the game. I rerolled hoping to get the King's Relic encounter too, but instead I got a normal stage. The normal and emergency version are almost the same, it's just more stats, so I guess I can show the clear of it. The only thing you should remember is that you have a few save tiles. and the bazookas will fire at the towers if you change their cover. You may observe what will happen to puzzle now. Boom. The moment they fire at the tower, you have a window to deploy something. If you have the medicine sticks, it's very easy to clean this. If not, you need some operator like a gravel to bait a shot. It's not a big deal. After you remove the berserks, you just spawn camp everything. Basically, the most important thing here is to just either have some crowd control, some bait, or some long-ranged operators. Anything that will let you kill the bazookas. Whether you jump them or just shoot them from far away. The guys that have one ranged attack are just a fodder enemy that comes later. And with that, all of the fights are done. We reached the final crafting bench with 33 sprouts. 16 items to go. Reduced movement speed. Gain 1 extra inspire. Very helpful for the last fight in the game. Recover 10 health. 8% extra attack, or 16 was it? 2 deployment limit, that's nice. I'm not going to need the health, so I went with 6 SP. Okay, I'll take the health too, if you insist, game. Arts damage when stunned. Attack speed on deployment. SP. 7% attack. 25% attack unranged. An ingot item! Woohoo! And we got the rainbow jar because the other one is utterly useless. Now these are both useless, but hey, 5 ingots. It's like 3 ASPD. And we took 25% defense. Not that we're blocking anything. So, do you remember that item we got at the start of the game? The round stone outer? After all this, we only have 6 stacks. 6! How do you get this thing maxed out? All that's left is the Patriot fight, and I'll let it speak for itself.
出発するよ。隠密行動を心がけてね。
合図など表情の動き一つでボロが出るんですよ。大丈夫だ。勇気を出せ。難しい処理だけど十分な時間さえあれば。
味は They have no way to advance. ここだよ。
心配しないで。僕がついていますから。
オッケー。
落ち着け。難しい処理だけど十分な時間さえあれば。処理だけど十分な時間さえあれば。私からの情報には随時ご。
リラの音色の中でまどろみなさい。死と眠りは元より近しいもの。すぐに解決いたしますね。ゲーム前に私の許可は取ったのかしら。ねえ、レモンさん。No need for mercy on the enemy, correct? You're not getting close to me that easily, you know. いいよ、バイバイ。お？ダッシュ死を待つなんてまっぴらごめんよ。I've been witnessing through. アニー、どこに先生の時間よ。
しっかりしてください。ほら、まずは深呼吸してみて。
すぐに解決いたしますわ。おもちゃで遊ぶのはここね。
ここをヘッセーキは黙って空から降ってくるものではないんだよ。いいよ、ここだよ。
Even an old home has a foundry archive.
Dear me, I'm aimed at you, you know. You guys think you're worth my full strength? Piercing through! 美しい風景、円山が見よう。
しっかりしてください。ほら、まず深呼吸してみて。
獲物はどれですか？この喫茶店、あなたの心臓に滑り込むまで1秒もかかりませんよ。
リラの音色の中でまどろみなさい。死と煙は元より近しいもの。
Watch out for the foundry archive.
Don't you fret. No matter the environment, I can see them just... They have no power. You thought I couldn't see you?
I'll go someplace else that needs more help.